There is a specific, suffocating density of the air beneath the canopy of an annual family estate picnic in Dallas when you realize the patriarch you built your life with has been utilizing every single traditional holiday for the last 24 months to conduct a secret operation with his own cousin. It doesn't smell like a chaotic romantic tragedy. It smells of melting mesquite charcoal, high-end Texas barbecue sauce, and the bitter chemical sting of a sudden data verification that occurs when a private device is left unsecured on a wooden table next to a glass of sweet tea. I remember the exact weight of the warm, heavy air in my lungs as I stood near the main serving station on a quiet Saturday afternoon, my eyes tracing a minor, microscopic notification text that blinked across Liam's unlocked screen. There was no grand cinematic projection at that moment, no dramatic public screaming matches, and no immediate tears. It was just the flat, unvarnished observation of a 6-word string. Everyone is here, we must be careful. And the instant, absolute realization that my marriage had been a structural front for a multi-year domestic treason executed right in front of our entire extended clan. And as my brain decoded the parameters of their coordination, realizing they believed my corporate auditing mind was too distracted by the company's quarterly tax codes to analyze the movements of our own relatives, the silence that settled over my skin was absolute. Let me show you how a precise, detail-oriented woman can quietly walk off a multi-million-dollar ranch in the middle of a family celebration, file for an immediate dissolution of assets, and split a traditional Texas dynasty completely down the center within 24 hours without ever raising her voice. My name is Avery. I am 38 years old. If you saw me analyzing corporate compliance spreadsheets and forensic transaction records behind the dual monitors at a prominent financial consulting firm in the business center of Dallas, you would see an incredibly sharp, completely methodical woman. I have striking, rich honey chestnut hair that I keep meticulously styled in soft, structured curls, piercing steel gray eyes that have spent 15 years auditing complex corporate tax frauds, and a life measured entirely by the unyielding laws of data verification and structural documentation. I didn't inhabit a disorganized, erratic world where events happen without a clear ledger. My home was an expansive, contemporary brick estate overlooking the Northern Valley, a space built on 12 years of absolute, simple devotion and a rigid lifestyle pattern that I believed was completely secure. I managed the finances, monitored the land deeds, and curated our social matrix with the exact same mathematical precision I used to catch corporate embezzlers. I believed that this transparent, metric-driven routine was a total shield against the deceptive malice of the world. To our large traditional Texas family circle, my relationship with Liam was the absolute benchmark of a stable, deeply rooted executive marriage. We were the anchor of the lineage. Every single summer, our entire extended network, uncles, aunts, nieces, and cousins from 3 different counties, gathered at the historical family ranch in Dallas for the annual reunion picnic. It was a massive, mandatory ritual where properties were discussed, family businesses were aligned, and old legacies were celebrated. I believed that this deep community bond was unshakable, unaware that the structural foundation of my life was already hollowed out. My husband, Liam, was 40. He was a senior commercial real estate developer whose charm was heavy, localized, and immensely effective. He was broad-shouldered, with a wardrobe full of custom Western shirts, dark hair that he kept perfectly groomed for high-end corporate auctions, and a loud, confident laugh that made him the natural leader of every family function. He was the golden boy of the Vance lineage. He spent his weekends helping his relatives restructure their local land contracts. He never missed a holiday dinner, and he returned to our estate every evening with a structured smile, kissing my forehead before reviewing our weekly corporate assets. He always positioned himself as the ultimate protector of our family's historical heritage, constantly reminding everyone that his grueling navigation of municipal zoning laws was the only mechanism keeping our collective estate intact. I trusted that professional pride implicitly. He wasn't a reckless gambler. He was a man who lived by legal timelines and land metrics, and I believed that a man whose entire reputation depended on strict regulatory compliance couldn't possibly possess the chaotic, reckless cruelty required to forge his own identity inside his own family. I offered him an absolute, blind loyalty, completely unaware that the proud man managing our family's assets was using our traditional gatherings to cover a total liquidation of my emotional stability. The second parameter in this domestic anomaly was Liam's cousin, Amanda. Amanda was 34, a sleek, calculating woman who managed the digital marketing accounts for the family's local ranching supplies business. She was a woman whose presence at our holiday gatherings was always marked by a superficial, overly attentive sweetness directed toward our elderly relatives. For 2 years, whenever our family hosted a Thanksgiving dinner, a Christmas gala, or a spring barbecue, Amanda was always the first to arrive, volunteering to manage the seating arrangements and coordinate the logistics with Liam. I viewed her as a useful, supportive component of our family framework. I remember sitting on the veranda of the ranch house during the previous holiday winter, watching Amanda hand Liam a glass of wine near the fireplace and feeling a deep sense of generational peace. I had no idea that while she was accepting my career guidance and financial advice, she was using those exact family events to maintain an active parallel relationship with my husband. They believed that the massive scale of our traditional gatherings, the noise of 80 relatives talking about land values, children running across the lawn, and constant corporate discussions, was a permanent sensory camouflage that would keep me entirely blind to their movements. They treated our shared bloodline as an administrative shield to execute a systematic deception right in front of my face. Trust inside a traditional family network is often the most dangerous vulnerability because we assume that ancestral respect acts as a biological boundary against betrayal. When you are focused on protecting the family's financial assets, you don't suspect your husband is utilizing a holiday picnic to coordinate a secret relationship with his own cousin. Have you ever realized that the people you shared a holiday table with were using the noise of the family to disguise their own malice? Tell me your experience below. The physical breakdown of their camouflage initialized exactly at 2:30 p.m. during the peak of the annual Saturday reunion picnic. The weather was typical for a Dallas summer. Heavy, humid heat rolling off the grass, with dozens of relatives crowded beneath the large white canvas tents set up near the central oak grove. The noise was continuous. Uncles were debating local oil leases, the children were swimming in the ranch pond, and the family suppliers were organizing the main catering lines. I began noticing minor, micro-behavioral anomalies that did not align with a standard public family function. Liam had been uncharacteristically quiet during the morning property presentation, his phone permanently tucked into his pocket. Amanda was positioned at the opposite end of the pavilion, but her eyes were constantly scanning the crowd, monitoring the location of Liam's parents. The turning point occurred when Liam stepped away from the main table to help slide a heavy ice chest into the catering shed. In his haste, he left his primary corporate smartphone resting face up on the wooden picnic table, directly next to my glass of sweet tea. He believed the device was secure because he had changed his biometric codes the week before. Suddenly, the screen illuminated with an unencrypted incoming text notification. Because the local cell tower was experiencing heavy traffic from the reunion crowd, the system had defaulted to rendering the message preview directly onto the lock screen to bypass a data delay. It wasn't a corporate logistics update, it was a crude, direct coordination string. My eyes fixed on the glass screen. The text was sent from an unlisted number, but the syntax was unmistakable. The message read, "Everyone is here. We must be careful. Meet me behind the old tractor shed in 5 minutes." I didn't scream. I didn't reach for the device. A life spent auditing complex financial fraud teaches you that the moment you react emotionally, the target deletes the evidence. I slowly reached into my handbag, pulled out my own corporate tablet, and captured a high-resolution digital image of the open screen, ensuring the timestamp, the network provider, and the raw text string were perfectly rendered in the frame. I sat perfectly still for 60 seconds, breathing in the smell of mesquite smoke and summer heat, while my brain mathematically reviewed the past 24 months of our family calendar. Thanksgiving in Houston, the spring corporate gala in Austin, the Labor Day weekend at the coast. At every single one of those milestones, Liam and Amanda had vanished for inventory checks or property boundary reviews for exactly 30 minutes. The data was complete, precise, and undeniable. I stood up from the picnic table, leaving my drink exactly where it was. I didn't look for Liam in the catering shed. I didn't walk behind the old tractor shed to witness a pathetic hidden encounter. I walked directly past my mother-in-law, who was laughing with an aunt near the gift pavilion, offered her a calm, steady smile, and said, "I have an urgent compliance file to review for the Dallas firm. I need to clear the sector." "Avery, honey, you work too hard," she said, patting my arm, entirely oblivious to the absolute liquidation that had just initialized inside her lineage. "Make sure you're back before the family photograph at 5. "The photograph will be perfectly handled without me," my voice dropping into a flat, mechanical deadness. I walked to my luxury SUV parked near the white fence, turned the key, and drove away from the ranch, leaving 80 celebrating relatives behind me in the dust. I didn't go back to our estate to cry. I drove straight to the downtown offices of my consulting firm, unlocked my secure server node, and initiated a total forensic audit of our entire shared existence. By midnight, the internal digital server revealed the full operational scope of their treason. Bypassing the primary residential firewalls, I audited Liam's secondary corporate cloud storage, a folder he believed was hidden beneath an encryption protocol used for his real estate acquisitions. I recovered the historical location data strings from his vehicle's automated navigation system, matched with the specific dates of every single family gathering over the past 2 years. The text threads recovered from the synchronized backup drive filled my monitors with a terrifying, unvarnished clarity. Liam, November 24, Thanksgiving. My wife is currently coordinating the holiday asset distribution with the lawyers in the main study. She won't look up from her folders for 2 hours. The guest cottage near the orchard is unkeyed. Meet me there after the main toast. She thinks we're just retrieving the vintage wine crates from the cellar. Her trust in this family makes her completely blind. Amanda, November 24, Thanksgiving. I'm already walking toward the orchard, Liam. I told my mother I was fixing the digital layout for the supply company's winter ad. Avery actually spent an hour today giving me advice on how to structure my tax filings. It's pathetic how much she focuses on the data while we manage the real assets right under her nose. See you in 5. When you discover that your husband and his cousin are treating your ancestral traditions and your professional guidance as a cheap camouflage for an ongoing affair, the family matrix terminates instantly. The deception loses all power because you hold the absolute forensic ledger of their fraud. If you caught an unencrypted text on a picnic table proving your relatives were deceiving you at every holiday, would you confront them in front of the barbecue pit, or would you walk away in absolute silence to prepare a total legal liquidation? Let me know below. My pulse remained completely flat throughout the entire night. I didn't block his accounts, I didn't call my family to scream down the line, and I didn't drop a single tear onto the mechanical keyboard. The realization that my 12-year marriage and our shared family heritage was an engineered biological fraud stripped away every layer of emotional vulnerability, leaving only a cold, calculated drive for total structural destruction. They believed my analytical focus made me a passive clerk who could be managed with superficial affection, completely unaware that a forensic auditor handles people the exact same way she handles fraudulent numbers. I compiled the synchronized location maps, the text previews from the picnic table, the recovered cloud data logs, and the financial statements showing Liam had transferred several family land options into Amanda's Paravan marketing agency without my required co-signature on the trust deed. I formatted the entire document into a comprehensive legal brief and forwarded it directly to the senior managing partners of the top family law firm in Dallas and the State Board of Real Estate Compliance. By Monday morning at 8 a.m., the divorce petition was filed in the district court. It wasn't a standard no-fault request. It was an aggressive asset dissolution brief based on civil fraud, breach of fiduciary duty to the family trust, and grand non-disclosure. I executed immediate freezing injunctions on every single joint bank account, every corporate vehicle title, and the primary deed to our North Valley estate. The confrontation materialized on Tuesday afternoon, not in a private kitchen or a quiet living room, but inside the main corporate boardroom of our family's commercial real estate firm in downtown Dallas. Liam had called an emergency meeting of the lineage's primary stakeholders, his parents, his partners, and Amanda, to discuss a sudden, terrifying freeze that had hit their corporate operational accounts that morning. They believed it was a bank security glitch, a data error that could be cleared with a standard administrative call. They sat around the mahogany conference table, their faces anxious, whispering as the estate lawyers shuffled their files. Amanda was sitting near the window, holding her tablet, her posture rigid with a sudden, deep unease. The double glass doors of the boardroom opened. I walked into the corporate space at 2 p.m. sharp, precisely as the meeting was initialized. I wasn't wearing my casual picnic clothes or my faded work-from-home sweaters. I walked through the executive doors wearing an incredibly striking, elegant, high-end white designer-tailored blazer with sharp, structured shoulders that caught the glare of the recessed LED lighting like a flare. My honey chestnut hair was styled in rich, flawless waves down my shoulders, and my steel gray eyes held a terrifying, razor-sharp clarity. My lips were painted a deep, commanding dark crimson. The anxious murmurs near the conference table instantly died as the family turned to stare at the intense, white blazer cutting through the dark mahogany space. Liam's confident expression completely vanished. He took a half-step forward, his knuckles tightening against his leather folder, a sudden primal terror flashing across his face as he saw me walking slowly toward the head of the table, holding a stack of certified legal briefs in my hand. The most effective retribution is executed when you walk directly into the center of the trader's commercial fortress, completely transforming their family corporate meeting into a public execution room. Liam and Amanda thought they were managing a banking glitch, entirely oblivious to the fact that the state compliance brief was already sitting in my hand. Have you ever had to act perfectly composed while preparing to split a family dynasty completely down the middle? Tell me your story below. The corporate boardroom was illuminated by the sharp white glare of the designer light panels overhead. The polished mahogany table was clean, reflecting the skyscrapers of downtown Dallas through the panoramic glass windows. The 10 family stakeholders turned their heads simultaneously as I placed the heavy legal folders directly onto the wood surface between Liam's hands and Amanda's tablet. "Avery, what is the meaning of this white blazer?" Liam asked, his voice cracking slightly as he attempted to maintain his dominant executive tone. "This is a private corporate board meeting regarding a bank freeze. You don't have authorization to disrupt this session." "I am the sole authorization remaining on this account, Liam," I said, my voice perfectly flat, carrying a cold, resonant echo that completely killed the ambient hum of the building's climate control. "I'm here to deliver the final quarterly performance audit on this lineage. Amanda, your digital marketing contracts with this estate have just been permanently liquidated." Amanda stood up from her leather chair, her face turning an absolute chalky white as she recognized the raw printouts of her own Thanksgiving text messages extending from the open folder. She tried to step toward the exit doors, but her hands were trembling so violently she dropped her tablet, the screen shattering against the polished floorboards like an open fracture. "Avery, please, this is a family matter. We can talk about this privately," Liam's father stammered, his voice shaking with generational panic as he read the words civil fraud and asset forgery on the front page of the legal brief. "You're going to destroy the family name across the entire county." "The name was destroyed the moment your son utilized your holiday ranch as a location for identity theft and domestic treason. You spent 2 years laughing at my data checks while executing your operations behind the tractor shed. The data has just output your reality." Liam lunged forward across the table, his face twisted in a narcissistic, desperate rage, his hand rising to grab the lapel of my white blazer. "You crazy bitch, you audited our entire family business." Before his fingers could make contact with the fabric, the heavy glass doors of the boardroom swung open. 2 county commercial fraud investigators and a senior corporate compliance deputy stepped into the room. They had been waiting for the signal. They handed Liam the immediate court-ordered corporate suspension notices and the asset freeze mandates, which stripped him of his managing director privileges under the primary trust deed funded by my firm's original investment capital. "Mr. Vance," the fraud investigator said, his voice carrying the flat, unyielding authority of Texas commercial law, "you and this associate are under immediate civil injunction for asset manipulation and trust forgery. Your corporate access codes are deactivated effective immediately." The boardroom turned into a freezing, breathless vacuum. Liam's mother began to weep openly into her hands, her proud, traditional facade completely shattered by the realization that her family dynasty was now split completely down the center, and her son's name was a toxic liability across the entire Texas real estate network. They were forced to leave the executive floor under the silent, unblinking surveillance of the security team, their high-end corporate lifestyle completely transformed into a pathetic public removal in front of their own business partners. I stood near the panoramic glass window, holding my secure drive, my white blazer glowing against the clear light of the Dallas skyline. I didn't shout. I didn't offer them a single syllable of human validation, and I didn't shed a single tear for their broken lineage. I simply watched the system execute its natural parameters. 3 years have passed since that humid Saturday afternoon at the family reunion ranch. The seasons return to the Southwest, but the layout of my world has been completely reorganized. I didn't stay in Dallas to listen to their mutual excuses or navigate the wreckage of a broken extended clan. I utilized the absolute clarity of the financial fraud logs and the divorce settlement to permanently relocate my consulting operations to another state, ensuring that no member of my ancestral past could ever breach my professional perimeter again. The divorce was finalized with total asset retention under my name. Liam's real estate credentials were permanently revoked by the state board due to the trust forgery logs exposed during the audit. Amanda and Liam tried to maintain their local marketing supplier business after the scandal, but a partnership built on the theft of a family's trust cannot survive the cold reality of a public blacklisting. According to rare letters from distant corporate contacts, their life is a constant, suffocating prison of mutual paranoia. Liam was terminated from every major development project in the county, and he currently works an entry-level position at a local structural storage yard. Amanda lives in a cramped rental near the Oklahoma line, her social circle permanently destroyed by the lineage blacklisting. I kept my position, my firm capital, and my absolute independence. I was promoted to the managing vice president of our firm's International Forensic Compliance Division, using my expanded resources to establish a private network that helps women secure their personal titles and corporate assets during high-conflict marital dissolutions. I became the sole architect of my own security. One gray Thursday afternoon, as a cool breeze was pulling the shadow across the courtyard of my new office tower, I was sitting on a stone bench, reviewing our department's digital budget logs on my tablet. The sound of a notification chime caught my attention. An international message had been sent to my private business account from an unlisted number. It was Liam. Avery, the text read, the syntax thin, cracked, and completely stripped of his former executive arrogance. My parents won't even look at me at Christmas, and because of the fraud record from the Dallas board, I can't get a commercial development loan anywhere in this state. Amanda left for the border last month after the bank took the vehicles. You completely erased my entire family lineage. Was it really worth destroying an entire dynasty just for a text preview on a picnic table? I didn't finish your dynasty, Liam. I typed back, my fingers moving with the flat precision of a tactical system report. I simply allowed the commercial system to output the exact reality of the data you chose to enter into that orchard cottage. You chose to sign a digital contract of your own betrayal while I was managing your family's assets. Enjoy the final compilation of your choices. I hit send, deleted the string, and blocked the domain. He remains inside his self-built cage, his name just an erased entry in my future compliance logs. The past is a secured perimeter, and my home finally stands on its own unshakable foundation. Do you know why I am telling you this story from the edge of this new courtyard today? Because the predators and deceivers of this world want you to believe that if you are a regular, structured person who focuses on your data and trusts your family, you are too weak to defend your own life. They think that because you are quiet, because you ignore their small slights while coordinating their family assets, you must be blind to their large conspiracies. They believe that a gas-lighted heart will always collapse into useless tears. But they do not understand the absolute, unalterable laws of patience and documentation. Your life does not belong to the people who tried to manipulate your absence using your own bloodline. And you don't need a loud screaming match, a public scene, or a chaotic confrontation to execute absolute justice. You just need the cold, silent discipline to collect the data, secure the evidence, and wait for the exact moment to let their own greed pull the trigger on their existence. Liam and Amanda thought they could steal my sanctuary because I was a quiet auditor at a picnic table. They forgot the most basic rule of the system backups. The woman who manages the files always knows exactly how to liquidate the assets. I am Avery. The audit is finalized, the asset is secured, and my path finally stands on its own unshakable foundation. Now, I have a final question for you, the person listening to my voice in the quiet of your own room tonight. If you discovered your husband and his cousin were utilizing every traditional family gathering to conduct a secret affair right behind your back, would you lose your temper and scream at them in front of the barbecue pit? Or would you wait patiently for their unsecured text message to freeze their entire corporate asset structure and watch them get removed by investigators in front of their own board partners? Tell me your strategy in the comments below. I am analyzing your logic.